just getting started. Welcome to the new era of the Podcast and Chill Network. We've leveled up the lineup to keep you locked in all week long. The Weekday Grind. Monday at 3 p.m. We kick things off with the Blueprint. MacG and Sopenduka stay in their lane, bringing you the heat you know and love. Tuesday at 3 p.m. Get your rhythm right with Music Pulse. Join Tahi, Nota, Sfiso, and Kanye Maz as they dissect the industry like only they can. Tuesday at 8 p.m. For the Disky lovers, the legends are back. Catch Steve Lecolea and Tulasizwe Mbuyane on Onside. Back to Disky. It's pure football royalty. Wednesday at 3 p.m. We're celebrating the culture. Catch Binka Nation with Gwiza Mkunu and Pinky. Real talk, real tradition. Wednesday at 8 p.m. Ladies, this one is for you. Philimpela, Shamiso, and Londi London are here to read the room. High tea, high fashion, and higher stakes. The Weekend Warm-Up, Thursday at 3 p.m. It's the big one. Your favorite celebrities and comedians sit down with the duo that started it all, MacG and Soul. Expect the unexpected. Friday at 3 p.m. We're taking it to the streets. Join us for Kasi Jam, the heartbeat of the hood, right on your screen. Friday at 8 p.m. The vibe gets intense. Seho and BU are bringing all the smoke. No filters, no apologies. The Sunday Session, Sunday at 3 p.m. Ease into the afternoon with the Bantwizis. They've got you covered with spreading humors. The perfect Sunday chill. Sunday night, we wrap it all up with the hard truths. Get the latest in politics and news on Be Frank with Mac. Different voices, same unapologetic energy. This is the new era. This is Podcast and Chill Network. Subscribe and hit the notification bell.
What is happening in the world right now is also a sign of the times, right? When you look at what has been happening with the Epstein files and some of the things that are being revealed there about this occult practices that are happening, eating of children, drinking of blood, this sort of these Freemasons that are these sick human beings that are doing all of these things, which Donald Trump has started a war of to try and take our eyes off that.
We're still very much inward looking. So our politics rotate around MacG Commission. And notwithstanding that the foreign policy positions and decisions that we make impact on what goes on in this country. And I think it's going to be more so now that we had wrapped both Thembisa and Donald Trump in the wrong way.
Is the world about to change as a result of the death of Khomeini? Ayatollah Khomeini, the supreme leader of Iran. Iranians not backing down. But what is happening right now in the Middle East? What impact is that going to have on the global community in the future of how countries now view themselves, especially from an autonomous point of view? Because Iran has almost said, no, guys, you don't have to be afraid of these people. Politics and international affairs aren't just about treaties, conferences, or even think tanks. They're about influence. They're about narrative. They're about who gets heard and who doesn't. Our guest tonight has lived that reality from the very beginning. He was born and raised during apartheid Soweto. He watched events like the June 16, 1976 uprisings from the eyes of a child. Experiences that shaped his lifelong engagement with justice, politics, and even global affairs. Fast forward decades later, Thembisa Fakude has worked as a journalist at Al Jazeera, served as bureau chief, led research units, and now directs Africa-Asia Dialogues, a forum shaping Africa's voice in global policy spaces. From reporting headlines to influencing policy debates, from visa inequality to conflict resolution, his career spans continents, disciplines, and even perspectives. Thembisa Fakude, welcome to Be Frank with Mac. You've had an illustrious career, not only in media, but in politics and in all the wonderful things that you've done. I've got one question for you. What in the jihad, the apocalypse, the hell is going on in the world right now. When you sit down and look at what's happening geopolitically, what's happening in the US, what's happening in South Africa, what's happening in Africa, what's happening in Libya, when you sort of have that crystal ball in your hand, what does it look like to you? To me, it looks like a mess.
Well, I think it's not a mess, but it's competition of ideologies for a space. And I can give you a religious justification, and I can give you a geopolitical justification. Mm-hmm. And the biggest challenge, of course, with the religious explanation of what's going on is that there is no flexibility. So you've got religious people who believe in their divine books about what's supposed to happen or what should happen in a region. And that is a challenge. The geopolitical explanation, of course, is competition for power and resources. Donald Trump and the Americans who have decided to go back into the utilization of fossil fuels want oil and energy, whether it's in Venezuela or in the Middle East. So Iran is one of those countries that produces a large amount of oil and gas. So they must be disrupted so that Donald Trump can extract at a cheaper price. One. The other warmonger in that part of the world is Benjamin Netanyahu, who wants to continue kicking the can down the road so that it can remain in power, because he knows when the dust settles, he's likely to go to jail. So this is basically it. So you've got these religious zealots who have their own divine instructions on how to go about conducting politics. But at the same time, you've got these greedy geopolitical politicians and capitalists led by Donald Trump who want to create havoc in the Middle East in particular, and now in the Atlantic, including Venezuela, which has got a little bit part of the Atlantic, to extract as much oil and energy sources as they can.
That's a very beautiful and flowery way of putting that. It's a shit show, right? The world is a royal mess and it's a shit show. But let's maybe start from the beginning. You hail from Soweto. You saw or had a glimmer of the 1976 uprisings. You've grown in leaps and bounds, not only politically, but in your career, in media. You've traveled the world. But at that time, when you think about running around in the dusty streets of Soweto during that upheaval, did you ever think the world would be your canvas and you'd be going up and down, having these conversations about geopolitics, politicians, and the world at large?
No, not at all. And this is why I'm always grateful to our forefathers, at least those who were involved in the struggle, who enabled us to do what we're doing today and have the exposure that we've had. But I never thought of it that manner, notwithstanding, of course, that I had a pleasure of being influenced by some of my family members who had a much more bigger view of the world. But I never thought I would be part and parcel of that. In fact, I looked at them at the time as just, I don't know what they were doing. My uncle was one of those first to travel to Argentina. In those days, it was, communist, socialist influenced travel, and I didn't understand what this guy was doing. But anyway, and in the township, as you know, we had so many influences.
Yes.
Across the road, there was someone who was doing that, and there was a Rastafarian down the road. But you never placed them globally. You thought these were guys from the township, and they had no association or attachment with other international formations. So the short answer is I never thought, anticipated that I'll do what I've done.
There's something very interesting about your trajectory. You're a Muslim, right? And, Ramadan Mubarak. How did that come about? When did you... we normally say revert. As Muslims, we say you revert. We don't say when did you become a Muslim. We believe you were born a Muslim. When did that change happen? And when did that... And how has that influenced and impacted your life?
Well, I became a Muslim at a much more younger age, 92. And largely, I've always been religious. In fact, when I was a Christian, I was one of the leaders of the student Christian movement.
Okay.
boarding school. And then I became a Muslim, and I became the leader of the Muslim youth movement.
Wow.
So I've always been religious, and it wasn't a difficult reversion because it's God, and worship is worship. Just tweaking certain ways on how you do it, including praying and fasting. But it's more the execution which is different. But the rest of it is all the same.
You see, for me, now, I get a stoked. So go high when I became a Muslim. My mother was like, thank God, at least you're praying.
My mom too. My mom said, just leave him. Whatever he does, as long as he sticks to this religion, he has become a good boy. And this is it, it kept her away from all the common practices and where we come from, all this consumption of alcohol, drugs, and all those kind of things that are prevalent within our community. So we became good people. In other words,
better human beings,
guarding our eyes, guarding our ears, guarding our bodies and private parts and all other that goes with it. And that made us, to an extent, you become different. And you become more focused, but it also opens up opportunities in terms of international relations, associations, and opportunities.
How did becoming a Muslim shape your political ideology? Because it plays a huge role. We know politics, we understand the ANC, we know the struggle, but there's also the politics of Islam and the politics of religion and how the two sort of cross. We're seeing it right now. In fact, we're seeing it in real time now, where almost like politics and religion are becoming this sort of mess. And this is where we find ourselves. So at that time, after you became a Muslim, how did that also change what was happening in 76, what was happening in the streets of Soweto, and this sort of religious upbringing that you're now getting?
Well, it made me more international. I became much more keen in understanding international politics. But importantly, I was fortunate to also establish relations with many countries from different parts of the world. And understanding the politics of Iran, for example, with Ayatollah Khomeini in 1979 was extremely important. It also helped to meet other important players around the world, but it was the struggles of these people that actually influenced me, and the opportunity to travel, particularly the Middle East, to understand history.
Yes.
That history was not in 1869 or 1886, as it is the case in Johannesburg, that history dated back before Christ. So you go to places like Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, and you look at the depth of civilization way before the United States, which is not even more than 300 years old. And Donald Trump doesn't understand that if you travel to some places in Syria, for example, you'll be gobsmacked in terms of go to Hagia Sophia and look at what is now the mosque, which is the first basically cathedral in the Western Hemisphere. So that helped in a way because you became more aware of what was going on around the world.
You decided to study politics at Wits University. After politics, then came journalism. There's a huge misconception around, almost like selling out. Right, especially when you move from being a journalist and then you go into politics, where you feel like you've been swallowed by the system. Is this a misconception, or do you believe this gives you greater depth? This gives you a greater understanding of what's actually happening on the ground?
I think so. I think it gives you you become a player. So the former is about reporting what's going on. And the frustration of reporting, of course, leads you to want to be an activist. So I was an activist before, then I became a journalist. Then now I'm more into thinking and, trying to make the world better. Yes. So you want to now play in terms of shaping public opinion at that level. And unfortunately in South Africa, our understanding of international relations, of course, is still young, I think comparatively to other countries that have been involved in this business of thinking and geopolitics for much more longer. Yes. We're still very much inward-looking. So our politics rotate around MacG Commission. And notwithstanding that the foreign policy positions and decisions that we make impact on what goes on in this country. And I think it's going to be more so now that we had rubbed both Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump in the wrong way. Benjamin Netanyahu in particular has got an axe to grind with South Africa. Now, the question is, after this, who's next? Knowing and having followed and studied the politics of the region, I wouldn't be surprised if we start targeting South Africa because of the ICJ case.
Because we've put him in the crosshairs, right? Our going to the ICJ and ideally charging him in a manner of speaking. We've put ourselves in the crosshairs of somebody that is a lunatic, so to speak, especially when it comes to his decision making. And he's got this big brother that's also a bully now. The orange man with the blonde hair, and that is a dangerous position to be in. Do you think South Africans even understand that?
No, I don't think they understand the gravity of this. I mean, Donald Trump's accusation of white genocide, it's a pretext, like it was the case with Iran, that Iran was planning to attack Israel, and this is why there was a preemptive strike. That's what they call this current standoff. We don't know what Donald Trump is trying to do with this false accusation of a white genocide. It could, again, be a pretext that could be used to his followers, particularly the Make America Great Again. There's lots in the United States that is justified to remove whoever it is in South Africa because they're involved in or engaged in this genocide. So this is very serious. And I think it's going to get even more serious with the shutting down of one, Strait of Hormuz, two, with the Houthis doing what they're doing in the Red Sea, which is likely to close the Bab el-Mandeb, which leads us to Suez Canal. So the traffic from now on from east to west and west to east is going to have to go via Cape of Good Hope, which therefore means Cape of Good Hope is going to be the hub. And once that happens, it becomes a significant place through which all the maritime traffic will have to stop, which will make us once again extremely relevant. That will also mean we need to have an amicable, friendly government in this country. So it's a serious situation. Of course, probably the current occupiers of power right now will probably not be there, but it's important for us to start thinking about those kind of things and planning in advance on how to prevent.
Thembisa Joang really busy kamatlang. I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, wow. I'm blown away because when you do add the dots, it makes perfect sense. We do understand it. I mean, I got into this so that we could perhaps get to this point. But when you look at what's happening in South Africa, we're worried about the tender, the pothole, and things like that. Yet, as you say, once again, geopolitics are so important for us, and we play such an important role. But I don't think we understand the power that we have. Kapokinna, maybe that is naive.
No, we don't understand it, and we have kind of relinquished this responsibility to very few in DERCO who are currently making all of these important decisions on our behalf. On Sunday, for example, I don't know why we're so quick to issue a statement against Iran. Yes, we had to issue a statement, but it's nice sometimes to piggyback on some bigger power. Don't put your head on the block and issue statements that, notwithstanding where we are in terms of our relations with the United States and Israel, and we're the first one to come and talk about.
We have a base just here in Botswana. Just by the way, they mustn't think, that Donald Trump is going to have to travel for years and years and years, or the American army needs to travel for months and months just to get here. They've got a base right here next door, Botswana. Muna, pila mafikeng.
No, sure. But also, we are blessed and also cursed at the same time with our geopolitical positioning. So we've got both the Atlantic and the Indian Ocean. And that is important. And, I collect maps. If you understand geopolitics, you need to look at the map.
Yes.
Now, if you look at the map of South Africa and where we are, we'll always be vulnerable, but also we have endless opportunities in terms of benefiting from maritime business. Yes. But we're not fit for purpose. But the challenge, of course, of being where we are at the moment is that we're sharing a huge coastline on the Atlantic Ocean. We're sharing a huge coastline on the Indian Ocean. And that's where the worlds meet at the Cape of Good Hope in Arabic, they call it Al-Rajah Saleh. And this is extremely important. So our geopolitics, and I'm not saying the guys at DERCO are not responsible, but we need some people who are fit for purpose, strong, who can think and understand where the world is going at the moment.
For South Africa and and many other sort of developing countries, what does BRICS really mean for us as a country? And can we depend on BRICS, or is it just another formation that is toothless that won't necessarily have an impact?
Well, we tend to bite more than we can chew, punching way above our weight. Joining BRICS was assuming a huge responsibility. Besides, we're a tiny little brick.
And in these bricks, we're like a Lego piece in these bricks.
Sure. But guess what? Opportunities and contributions to BRICS do not take that into account, right? So you're dealing with 1 billion plus people from China and India. You're dealing with another 500 plus million people from Brazil and Russia, and we are like somewhere 65 million. With less
like a province in each one of those countries, right? There's provinces with 65 million people in India. You know what I mean?
And we have to contribute, of course, as an equal partner. You can't be treated as a brick.
Yes.
So whatever contributions are required by BRICS, including, for example, the so-called BRICS Bank, we need to put in some deposits there. And those deposits will not be calculated based on your size and demographics. So that's the one point. I don't think BRICS would do anything. One would have expected that BRICS would have acted as a bloc when Trump came up with his trade tariffs. It was an opportunity for BRICS to show up.
Yes.
And launch itself as an alternative. But guess what happened? It was a standalone policy, whether it was India negotiating on its behalf. China did the same. Russia, we can't blame them because they're fighting an unwinnable war in Ukraine. And South Africa also was doing itself. So there was no bloc positioning, one. Two is right now a full member of BRICS. Iran is engaged in this unjustified war with both United States and Israel. And where is BRICS? Yeah, everybody else is issuing statements, separate statements, or members of BRICS are issuing statements separately. In fact, the same BRIC members are taking another BRIC member. Well, BRIC members, at least Saudi Arabia hasn't joined in. It was invited, but it snubbed us or snubbed the BRICS. But United Arab Emirates is a member of BRICS, and Iran is hitting United Arab Emirates.
And we haven't even had a statement, nothing whatsoever.
Narendra Modi is a close friend of Benjamin Netanyahu, was there not long ago. India is pulling a different direction. So BRICS, I'm not quite sure what is there for. And I think to an extent it's been weakened by the internal challenges of individual countries, particularly Russia and China. China is, see no evil, hear no evil foreign policy. Also our, China first policy, even though they haven't articulated it, but it's all about China, right? So they're not going to be taking that responsibility of leading BRICS.
The one thing that, is obviously the biggest topic right now is what is happening in Iran. For me, and from my understanding, and what I've been reading, what I've been seeing, is the world about to change as a result of the death of Khomeini, Ayatollah Khomeini, the supreme leader of Iran. Iranians not backing down. But what is happening right now in the Middle East, what impact is that going to have on the global community and the future of how countries now view themselves, especially from an autonomous point of view? Because Iran has almost said, no, guys, we don't have to be afraid of these people.
Yeah, I think they've tasted the shock absorbers of both the United States and Israel, and the world is about to change. And the Gulf countries are also happy, by the way, contrary to what most people believe.
They're like, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Yeah, because it's the only way you can get rid of the American bases, right? So the excuse will be, guys, we are threatened by your presence, so please leave. Yes. Because Iran is now...
and that's a big statement.
It's a big statement.
That's a big statement.
So when you have the exit of the Americans in the Gulf and the Middle East in general, there's going to be a vacuum, and that vacuum has to be filled. And I think it's going to be filled by Turkey. And if Turkey fills that up, then we have Turkey and we've got Iran against Israel. That will change and tilt the political balance of power in that region. So, and we don't know then what will happen in terms of self-preservation. if Israel is attacked, I think it's likely to resort to the worst position, which all of us, of course, pray not going to happen.
Which is nuclear.
Of course. So
nuclear.
I think what's going to see happening now is Qatar, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain are all going to ask the Americans to leave the region, and Turkey is going to take that position. We've already had, for example, Naftali Bennett, former Prime Minister of Israel, saying the next Iran is Turkey. Now, you're going to have a serious situation if that happens. That's one. The other point, there's a group of individuals called the Kurds.
Oh, the Kurds, yes.
Kurds have got an ambition of creating or establishing something called the Kurdistan. And this is a grouping that Trump and Netanyahu are hoping will replace the current government of Iran. So they've already started, agitating within Iran. Now, if that happens, Turkey has just dealt with the Kurds in Turkey. They call them PKK. They were dealt with by Turkey.
Yes.
Syria has also done the same in terms of including them or integrating them into their own military. So you have the Kurds that are emboldened at the moment, and they want their own state. But now the challenge is that their state, they are claiming piece of Iran, piece of Syria, piece of Iraq, and piece of Turkey. So it's if you look at the map.
Yes.
So if that happens, then there's a havoc in this whole situation. And I think the biggest loser here, eventually, is going to be Israel. Yes. By the way, it's not an old state, Israel. Many people forget it was established in 1948 after they killed and displaced thousands of Palestinians. So like yesterday.
Yeah.
And if you look at the politics of the region,
yes,
1948 is nothing. You're talking about people who have survived and lived thousands of years.
Yes.
So I went to St. Paul's in London, and the British were proud. This was established in the year of our Lord 1212 or something like that.
Yes.
And then you go to Hagia Sophia, 530 AD. Mind-boggling.
Yes.
So if you come from Soweto and you go to these places and you see where Jesus Christ actually walked,
yes, it's mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing. So I was in Iraq, and in Iraq, in September, there's something called Salul Manwa. So something that falls from the sky. And they take it, they make sweet out of it, and they eat it. So I'm like asking this guy, what is this thing? Tell me now, Salul Manwa. Like everybody knows it. Guess what is that? Manna from heaven.
Wow.
Still today.
Manna from heaven.
Manna from heaven. Till today, it happens. They still use it. So I brought it from mom. She was almost in tears. So this is history of the Middle East.
Sarah and Manwa, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's manna from heaven.
Manna from heaven.
Yeah, it's in Iraq. When they were moving the children of Israel, they got manna from heaven. But it's not like, it was not a miracle.
It doesn't stop. It's almost like what do they call with Zamzam, right?
Yeah, it's not a miracle.
Water.
It's
an
still
endless supply.
Still happening. It's not.
Manna from heaven and Iraq.
It's still happening. It's like, for example, when they said the people of Moses, when they were crossing the Red Sea, they opened. When there's a low tide, of course, there's a path.
Yes.
And I went there, and I go there all the time. You actually can walk across to the other side.
I mean, you've walked on water with Jesus.
So and they know exactly when it is, right?
Yes.
And then when the tide comes back and it shuts off, when people died because they miscalculated the time of the tide.
Yes.
The last example I wanted to give you as well is this whole business of El Nino. It was 7 or 10 days of plenty and 10 days of drought with Joseph.
Yes.
It's happening till today. So all of these things are not miracles. It's just lazy theology and people not understanding and not being there to realize and experience it. That, what happened or what we are told in the Bible, it's got nothing to do with miracle of God. It's, you have to understand science to realize your creator.
Yes.
Now, lazy theology always say, okay, no, it's a miracle.
Yes.
But it's not a miracle. It's like when people who drink wine, they will tell you that the first glass is nice, right?
Yes.
Second one is okay. It's called elasticity in economics. And the third one is all right, and the fourth one is all right. Now, when Jesus came and made wine, put water, they couldn't tell the difference because they were in a 10th glass of wine.
Yes.
So
possible, right?
Yeah. So these are, but you can't be saying, oh, it's a miracle. Jesus Christ made wine. No, he just added water. And with the thirst and the taste reducing as you consume, of course you can't tell the difference. In towns, if you go and you put anything in a Viceroy a Viceroy bottle, and you say, oh, you put the Viceroy brandy, which some of my family members used to do on the Jameson or whatever, it's just called expensive, and you give the guys who don't know in the township, and you tell them, hey, boss, this is serious stuff.
Hey, not 12-year-old.
They will never know the difference, right? So these are the kind of things that requires us to really deep dig, not only in politics, but generally in terms of dealing with issues.
Earlier on when we spoke, Thembisa, you spoke about the fact that we can look at this thing from a political point of view, but we can also look at it from a religious point of view. Maybe let's also have a look at it from a religious point of view. What is happening in the world right now is also a sign of the times, right? When you look at what has been happening with the Epstein files and some of the things that are being revealed there about this occult practices that are happening, eating of children, drinking of blood, this sort of these Freemasons that are these sick human beings that are doing all of these things, which Donald Trump has started a war of to try and take our eyes off that. And you see what is happening even from a religious point of view in what would be termed the Holy Lands. Is there a religious way of also explaining this to say, yes, but this is a sign of the times?
Yeah, both in Islam and in Christianity, at least I'm au fait with both religions. These are certainly sign of times. If you look at the book of Revelations or you look at the Quran, it tells you about what will happen when that time approaches. And if you look at what's going on at the moment, it is certainly a sign of time. So luckily we both, we're geopoliticians, but at the same time we're journalists, Muslim, and we understand these important scriptures. So I don't write it off. So I try to be realistic in terms of my geopolitical analysis, but at the same time, I also believe in a Quran, and I believe that there will be times like this, and this will determine that, and we need to hasten towards doing good and making sure that at least we're safe when that happens. And you can only be safe when that happens if you continue doing good.
Yes.
And staying away from trouble, and fighting injustice and protecting our environment, and do what we have to do. But if you look around you, people just don't really care much about, there's an obsession about accumulation and money and all of that. I lost my wife not long ago, and you realize that, these kind of things happen. And when they happen, you also know that, it's a matter of time for you before you go the same way. So the concentration and the realization of what you live for, particularly for young people, is key. This is a new struggle of balancing both your intellectual capabilities and understanding, but also your spiritual fitness, so that you get to understand when logic fails you.
Yes.
You can only resort to the other one. Yes. After you've exalted everything else about why this is happening, why do we have Donald Trump? And you can say, well, God knows best, because sometimes you just don't understand why certain things are happening, or how and why people can be as brutal and evil as they are at the moment. So I think that sometimes these kind of human beings are sent deliberately to shake comfort zones, to strengthen us spiritually and intellectually. And I think that's what Benjamin Netanyahu and the likes of Donald Trump are here to do. God sent them for a particular purpose, to strengthen our resolve and remind us that activism is not a part-time occupation. You are in a perpetual, permanent struggle of trying to make your environment and surroundings better than you found them.
I'm going to ask you to look at your crystal ball once again, and in closing, and say, when you look at what is happening right now, where are we headed? One, as a country, and is the world going to be a very different place, not maybe even in the nearest future, within the next couple of months?
Oh, yeah. I think we're heading towards a reconfigured world. And unfortunately, we're not part of it. Unfortunately, South Africans. We're not part of the digitization of information. For example, Google is involved in the process of digitizing every single book that's ever been written. And if you're not on Google, you don't exist. And South Africans are okay. No agency in terms of ensuring that you Google. If you go now and look at a great human being by the name of Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe, 2 lines, this was a serious guy, was not but why? Because his books and writings are not digitized. And yet you go and look at some non-starter, Benjamin Netanyahu, dominates the entire internet. So kids who are doing research now go to library, don't look at books, they look at what's on the internet.
Yes.
So if they have to write about Robert Sobukwe, what are they going to write about? So the world is changing, not only in terms of the geopolitics, but in terms of our engagement. AI relies largely on what's online. That's why, for example, when we were growing up, there was something called GIGO, garbage in, garbage out.
Yes.
So whatever's on a system, when a computer exists, and many young people think that by being on social media, social media is not a URL. So you are not Googleable. Or AI is not going to take your Facebook posts and write about you. It takes what's online. So you have to always try to have a link that will be part and parcel of AI. So when they...
To be present.
To be present.
In the environment.
Social post is not URL. It's a link. And it doesn't mean anything. So if someone wants to find out about you, they go to Instagram, they'll never know anything about it. In fact, they might have deleted it, given that we might be charged now for our digital presence because space is becoming smaller and smaller. And you have all of these data centers that are coming up. They're certainly going to be charging us for emails now, right? Emails were free, but I don't think emails are going to be free for very long. They're going to start charging us because it's getting more and more expensive. So the world is changing. But there's no agency for us to understand this very, very important. I'm part of something called Shark in Istanbul. We gather young people, thousands of them. It's at the moment the biggest youth gathering in the world, where young people from various parts of Africa come and they talk about the future. We don't have anything like that in South Africa, and it's scary. But importantly is the digital presence, which is going to determine and ensure a seat on the table for us. We're nowhere, like nowhere. No one is keen. We're not participating in this. And by the way, there's open invitation. And for me, I think the most urgent thing right now is this digitization of publications. Whatever has been written before has to be ingested into the system so that AI can find resources to respond whenever required or asked to do so. In the absence of that, nobody cares. You don't exist. Nobody's going to be speaking to you. The whole business of a CV, the matter of time is going to be over. A CV is going to be based on what's online.
About you.
Your digital. I've just been appointed to be one of the trustees in one of the relief organization, and they wanted my social media interactions and all of that. They didn't care about what I wrote on paper. They wanted to go and see what's on.
How many followers you have?
And if you delete it, and they can see that this was deleted. Okay, why did you delete it? You lose opportunities. Now, even that is important because the responsibility of what you put online, garbage in, garbage out. So you put garbage, is going to come speak against you. How many of us are telling our kids that or teaching that at school, for example? In South Africa, you still get a certificate. You are celebrated for getting a word processor certificate. This day and age is not supposed to be a qualification. It's not supposed to be something that you're supposed to be proud of.
Yes.
It's an essential skill. It's like driver's license.
Yes.
It's not a qualification. We don't have to have a party and celebrating that you now can operate Excel, which is, by the way, is going to be out of fashion very soon. But we are not giving our kids skills that are relevant for future, and we're not making them fit for purpose. Nor do we encourage them to understand what's happening geopolitically around the world and what young people in China are doing. What young people in the United States are doing. You saw, I don't know whether you watched those robots that a couple of days ago. Yeah. They're in different situations.
It's a different level.
It's a totally different level. And I don't think we're there yet, fit for purpose to ensure that our kids and the young people in South Africa in general, not only do they partner with their colleagues outside the country, because many South Africans don't even They don't even participate.
They haven't been to Lesotho. Lesotho, man. Let's leave, anywhere else, the global world. Lesotho, you ask an ordinary South African, have they been to Lesotho, Swaziland, Zimbabwe, Namibia? And these are just over our borders. Many people haven't. Thembisa, I wish this could go on for hours. You're a wealth of knowledge. It's been an absolute mind-boggle having you with us here on Be Frank with Mike, and hopefully we can do this again. I think there's a lot that we still need to talk about, and hopefully you'll also become a regular here. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I wish you all the best in your endeavors and with your organizations and the different caps that you wear. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and time with us.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Emhlabeni kaJehova subscribe nina futhi nibabi if ubhekele channel for 10 minutes longer and aka subscribe umubi dog. That's why bakuchithela ngoba awuna commitment, unama commitment issues. Subscribe lapho ngeke sizwe